Hello, everyone. Welcome to another BDPA Tech and Career Talk. I am our Tech and Career Talk leader, Devin Jenkins, a commercial IT success manager at GE Healthcare, and founder CEO of Share the Vibes LLC. So glad to have you with us. Always look forward to these insightful, engaging, informative conversations around all things tech. So I'm excited. Have a great conversation with you in partnership with our good friends over at Vanguard Consulting Group, who are more than friends, they're family at this point. So we're glad to have you with us. Before we jump into today's conversation, as always, I'd like to make sure everyone is familiar with BDPA. As well as the Tech and Career Talk, so you understand who we are, what we do, and what this platform is all about. So BDPA is Black Data Processing Associates. The organization started in 1975, actually out in the Philadelphia area, if I recall correctly, but started in 1975 as a way to ensure we maintain a strong tech talent pipeline in the African American community. BDPA has a strong focus on youth, specifically middle and high school students, teaching them computer programming skills, professional development skills, and making sure they're relevant as technology continues to evolve. So this has led to cloud academies and data science academies, and other things that we have as a part of the organization to make sure that our members are staying relevant in today's ever evolving technological society. So that is one of our focuses with our young people. And we also have a focus around our professionals and those who are in the tech field, providing professional development opportunities, networking, and making sure we're educated and staying relevant as well. Our mantra is advancing careers from the classroom to the boardroom. That's what we're all about. That's what we've been doing for coming up on 50 years next year. And we hope to do it for 50, 60, 70, 200 more. So we're going to keep this thing rocking and rolling. And we hope to see you all in Atlanta next August for our 50th anniversary conference. So excited for that. BDPA Taking Career Talk. So these take place second and fourth Friday of most months. This month is an exception with Thanksgiving coming up. We give you some time to focus on family and the holidays. Same thing for December. We'll have one talk to round out the year with our national president, Perry Carter. But for the most part, we're here second and fourth Friday of each month for 1 hour, and we bring in a range of speakers. Some are talking about tech infrastructure and building communities like our guest today. We've had people talk about working with jerks and managing emotional intelligence in the workplace. We've even talked about brain machine interaction. So we give you a range of topics, something that's relevant and valuable for everyone, regardless of where you're at in your career, whether you're a student, early career professional, a retired senior executive, entrepreneur, it doesn't matter. There's something that you can take away from these conversations. So if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like, share, subscribe, comment below, hit the bell so you know when we post. And share this with somebody who needs to hear this conversation. This is valuable information and we want to make it accessible for everyone. So, with that being said, I'm going to get out of the way today and I'm going to turn the floor over to Amara with Vanguard Consulting Group to bring on our special guest today and guide us through today's conversation.
Thank you so much, Devin. Thank you for that intro and good morning and welcome to everyone. We're so excited to have you. Like Devin said, my name is Amara Tennessee. I am the
Oh,
director
that
of
is a name.
Yeah, it is. It's my real name, Amara Tennessee. People love it's a surprise to most. It's a little it's a little unusual,
Okay.
but it's fun.
Feel free to, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's why I sent it in a Word document. So if you want,
Okay. There you go. All good, all good. Anyway, like I said, Amara Tennessee, Director of Programs with Vanguard Consulting Group, and we have some incredible guests with you today. Our topic is rebuilding tech to build community, and we have Monique Tate and Raul Enriquez of Community Tech New York here as our special guests. Just some quick housekeeping before we start our conversation. Throughout this conversation today, I will be fielding any of the questions that you all have. So if you have a question that you want to ask our guests or something you would like them to expand upon, go ahead and use that chat and I will be monitoring it and asking any questions that pop up. So make sure to use that feature. And let's go ahead and get started. So let's start with a welcome of our guests. Monique, Raul, welcome and thank you for joining us today. Let's give the audience a chance to get to know you, to hear a little bit about you before we dive into some of our questions. So can both of you share a little bit about yourselves, what got you into community tech, and what was the light bulb moment that started this journey we're about to discover with you?
Good afternoon or morning, where some may be. I'll go ahead and start. This is Monique Tate. First of all, thank you all so much for inviting us to have this opportunity to chat with the community and to chat with you guys. So we're really excited to be here, and thank you for that. Just keeping the answers pretty short. My career goes back for quite a long time, but it started off in risk management and corporate. I joined looking into tech because I'm from Detroit originally, and not originally, but that's really where my career started. And we went through a huge financial crisis, housing crisis, everything that hit us. We are like the traditional when something hits the Black community, and Detroit is the largest Black city in the nation. And when the housing crisis and all of that hit, and we housed the auto industry, Detroit was just in turmoil. Everything was going down in terms of opportunity, and being a former auto industry person, I was displaced from my position, laid off with so many other tens of thousands of people. After taking a little bit of a hiatus, I then started volunteering because there were no jobs really to get, but I wanted something to do. And I started volunteering at a local nonprofit organization and started working in tech in that organization, just first doing some digital literacy and support to young people. That's what introduced me to this field. And then I got introduced to community technology in 2012. I'll talk more about it later, so I'll leave it at that and turn it over to Raul.
Hello, my name is Raul Enriquez. I'm the co-founder and a co-director at CTNY. My connection to community tech comes out of teaching GED for almost 10 years and teaching computer literacy and media arts to underserved communities. And I did this for, again, almost 10 years. And I was always frustrated with how the funding for this kind of work never kind of all came together. It was either funding for GED, funding for computers, or funding for media arts. So I was always trying to figure out a way to get them to all be one thing. And I had the opportunity to work on a project, with a community tech project, which allowed me to kind of merge all these things together. I mean, we're not teaching GED, but it's kind of a merging of technology, organizing, arts, creativity, and just literacy, basically knowledge and literacy and transferable skills. And so that's kind of how I got into this, and that's where we're at.
Incredible. And as a fellow GED instructor, I understand what that learning model can look like, right? Like thinking about not only material that needs to be understood and synthesized, but the process of learning and how people are able to come to that information and synthesize it on their own is really interesting. And so learning how to braid different aspects of that together is really cool. And technology sometimes can be a little bit scary to approach. So and it seems like there's a little bit of ease in the understanding, or at least the process that you guys are going to explain to us. But how would you describe the core mission of Community Tech New York in one sentence or a few sentences?
That's a good one, because narrowing it down to one sentence is a challenge, but we did accomplish that. Community Tech New York, we look at ourselves as a group that applies a hands-on approach to building digital equity with grassroots organizations and community residents. We combine technology education with community organizing. That is really one of the key things that we do, because in that regard, we are always looking to co-create programming. The programming we co-create with those orgs and individuals that we're working with supports resilience, equity, and justice, so that these organizations are prepared to advocate for our community's both digital and social justice needs.
Incredible. If you were as excited as I was the first time I heard kind of an overview of what Community Tech New York is, then join the line. The Vanguard team had the pleasure of meeting you all and your team at the Align 2024 conference at UCLA just a few weeks ago. We want to give a special shout out to another one of your team members who is not here now, but is with us in thought, Danny Peralta, who is not able to join us.
Absolutely.
Shout out to him. The work that you all do really requires an expansion of your networks, your relationships, and different opportunities and partnerships that you introduce technology to thousands of people within a community. And not just technology, but digital justice. So in that work that you all do, what's a story that stands out to you about that journey?
I'll start. One of the best things that I love about us and what we do is that it's centered around creativity. So we're always looking for a myriad of people to be amongst us in working on community technology. So one of the things that we did as an organization, and that organization is the Detroit Digital Justice Coalition. We are the first digital justice coalition to have ever been created, as far as I know. We were created in 2009. I didn't join them until 2011, but they started in 2009, and they developed digital justice principles. Those principles are based on 4 pillars. Those 4 pillars are access. We're talking, of course, about internet and technology, but access, participation, common ownership, and healthy communities. Within those 4 pillars, there are 13 actual principles. But the exciting thing about it is that as of today, especially after the pandemic, there are now over 100 coalitions registered. And many of them, I wouldn't even doubt to say most of them, have adopted our principles for digital justice. So that's one of the things that we've been able to accomplish that I am very proud to be a part of and be working with.
Absolutely incredible. Raul?
And if I can add to that, because with the DGJC, that's led to a long arc of this work. And we were lucky enough, again, I don't believe in luck, but we were privileged enough to get a large funding opportunity from ISOC, the Internet Society. And it allowed us to host groups from around the country to come to Brooklyn to get trained on how to build a portable network kit and understand how to organize around it and then bring it back to their communities. And we had the pleasure and honor of training Piper Carter, one of the authors and founders of the DGJC. And so it was nice to have this full circle situation come where our work is based on a lot of that work that was done back then. And now we were able to give back to her and to her organization. So it was really, really quite a special moment.
Incredible. That does sound like a really special moment and full circle as well. I think having some of those moments really support and invigorate the mission. And Raul, you mentioned the portable network kit, and I think our audience would be really excited to hear a little bit more about it. The first time I saw it, I was absolutely floored. I have a background in public health and specifically in strengthening community capacity through health programming. And so the minute I saw it, I was like, this needs to be everywhere and with everyone. I was so excited. So Raul, tell us a little bit about the portable network kit. What's the coolest use you've seen with it? What surprises you? What excites you about it?
Well, in a nutshell, a PNK, or portable network kit, we call it.
I'm going to jump in one,
yes.
Because this is where you can do the display. You can do the,
right.
Yes, you can show the slide. You can go to the next slide because a visual is, of course, a wonderful thing. Now you can stop right there. Go ahead, Raul.
Right. Thank you, Monique. I forgot all about those.
No worries.
Well, a PNK is basically a high-powered wireless network in a suitcase that helps people understand how to build their own local area network and how the internet might be owned and governed more equitably. They consist of off-the-shelf hardware and open source software housed in a waterproof solar battery powered situation. And what's nice about it is they are just kind of easily you can walk around with a high-powered network in your hand and deploy them anywhere. So a really good application or a story from how people have used PNKs is in rural Tennessee at the Clear Fork Community Institute.
You can go to the next slide, Amara.
Yeah.
There they are.
There they are. And that's April up on the community center's rooftop, mounting an antenna. And so she realized that across the river, there was not internet connectivity at the post office. And so on her own, she figured out a plan on how to shoot a signal across the river and provide a federal post office connectivity to the internet. And so this is all done on her own. She learned enough about how the gear works and how to connect everything and make it all work. And so she put up a flagpole on her side, shot an antenna signal across the river, put another antenna on the other side on a flagpole, and caught the signal and brought the signal into the place with an access point. And it was incredible. And so this is the kind of idea that we have behind this work, is that once you learn about how to build your own little mini network, you can expand it and create your own version of the internet for yourself and for others. And then the other one, next slide, please, is in Louisiana. There's a group called Bovancha Liberation Radio. They're an intertribal group. And they built this ceremonial mound in the Greenway there. And they used the mound as a high ground to test out the range of their antennas for their P&K. And so I was there in August with them, and they did this what we call a discotheque outside, which is short for discovering technology. And they invited the community to come and help them test the range of these antennas in the public space. And so it was just a really good moment of ritual and technology together with the community involved to kind of understand how this network can be used in an emergency. So I'd say that's a pretty good thing. And they also use it for, they've used their P&K to archive all their radio shows, and they plan to pair P&Ks with their solar trailers. I think they have 5 of them that they use during an emergency to bust out and provide power and connectivity to areas that need it. So yeah.
You can take the display down. You don't have to go to the next slide yet. We'll come back to that one at the end.
Okay.
At the end.
No problem. Oh my goodness. I hope you all are as excited as as I was to see that. That is absolutely incredible. And I love to see and hear about the inclusion of the community in that process. I think
Yes.
when you're approaching someone with something new and really tech forward, tech tends to scare people sometimes. And so making it really approachable and then including the people who are going to benefit from it in the process really focuses on your mission. So I'm grateful to see that and to hear a little bit about it. And speaking about community building and what the benefit is, Monique, you've had some experience building community broadband networks in Detroit. And so can you tell us a little bit about some of the unique challenges you faced and how those experiences prepared you for what you guys are doing with Community Tech New York?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'll go back and reiterate the principles, because as I mentioned about access, participation, common ownership, and healthy communities, those principles we take to heart, and we try to reflect them in everything we do. So even looking at the examples on what you saw with the P&K and its uses, they are pretty miraculous. And the time in which we evolved as an entity, which I mentioned was 2009. That was far before the pandemic, which people found out that there was internet disparity. The only thing I appreciate about the pandemic is that we no longer had to fight that battle and continue to rally that cry through social justice, that there was internet disparity, especially unserved and underserved communities in urban neighborhoods where internet service providers were identifying, and still to this day try to say that, oh, everybody's covered and everybody's got coverage. But in most of our communities, no, they don't. There are still people who need access, and that's what we look to provide in building community networks. In Detroit is where I got my feet wet with working with both Allied Media Projects, who did where my initial digital stewardship training occurred, and then with the Detroit Community Technology Project, whom I worked very closely with them and a local community organization, North End Woodward Community Coalition, because that's where we literally built large and key community networks where people are currently on either free or very low cost, high speed broadband internet. I'm going to speak to 2 points on that. When we talk about inclusion of community residents, and I love what the motto too that you have at BDPA about classroom to boardroom, because we have that same concept, but we're talking about community residents, and we want community residents just to rise up and become adopters and users of the internet. But we know we don't only promote use, we promote being producers as opposed to just consumers. So I say that because it relates to the internet speed. We have always offered dual internet speed, meaning that the upload speed is just as fast as the download speed, because we believe and encourage individuals to participate online and provide their content. So uploading your content, whether it's a voice like this one in a podcast, or whether it's music, entertainment, video, whatever it is that you have to offer, you've got a huge platform of the world that can be used. So we highly value internet speeds that are just as fast for you to provide and produce your content. You asked me about a story, and I don't want to go too much over my time, but I want to share the story because it is important. When we did on the ground activity, I've done lots and lots of door knocking because I'm a community activist and community engagement for a long time. During the pandemic, we changed our internet from low cost to free, and low cost was like $10 and $20, but we changed it to free during that time. And I had struggling families who had no jobs because, of course, you know how everybody had to stay home. So people were laid off and trying to determine how they were going to feed their families. But not only that, parents got a chance to really experience full days and full households of family, or whether it's just kids or other relatives. And I worked with a family in particular where the mom had kids in 2 different age ranges, one in high school, one in elementary school. And she was trying to, and of course, parents had to take on the task of teaching. So she was trying to teach her kid the new math. And she was like, I don't know anything about this new math. So to her welcoming us in with mask, I came in, worked with them, showed them the University of YouTube, which is what we love. One of the aspects that we love, because you can go there and learn anything. So I helped her with finding videos that fit her pace of learning, that could teach her how to teach her children. And then we found sites for her son, so that her oldest son, so that he could get engaged and involved in doing online video production. And then her younger son, of course, he loved games, but I showed her the learning GCF Learn Free, and other opportunities for teaching kids through games. So while he thought he's just playing with, oh, I'm just playing race car, and I'm just playing with these moving blocks, and he was actually doing not only just math and spelling in order to do that, but he was also doing coding, because in one of the apps that we referred them to under Khan Academy, of course, you have to put in code in order to move your figure. So up 3, over 2, he was writing code, not even realizing it. So that was the most wonderful experience during a time of challenge.
Absolutely. I think that's really a beautiful way of using your resources and relying on those around you for that support. I think during COVID, we all experienced something very new and very unprecedented. So navigating those waters as a community definitely feels a lot more reassuring and a lot more secure. Monique, I want to go back to something that you mentioned earlier about people finding their voices, and you encouraging people to use the internet and to post online and share their thoughts, share their experiences with an audience, because the world is wide and the internet is large. And so we have this kind of plethora of not only information, but of an audience as well. And so how do you both, for Monique and Raul, how do you approach the challenge of making technology accessible and relevant to people who might not see that it's for them, quote unquote?
That's one of the things that is very successful is making sure that whatever solutions that we're sharing with them are relevant. Just like I said, in terms of the homework helps for people, but allowing people to have good digital literacy skills. That's important. And one of the things we do in our discotheques, as Raul said, is short for Discovering Technology. They're super wonderful. They're like science fairs, but it's all about technology. It could be from how to use your smartphone to literally how to set up a network with the portable network kit. But providing people, I think, that basic digital literacy and knowing how to protect their privacy and execute security so that they're safe when being online. So not only finding relevant subjects, adopting them and using them, but also making sure that you're protecting your own privacy, not giving away your data. Everything that's free, like apps that we can download, and of course I use them too, apps that we can download on our phones for whether it's navigation or making something easy, the cost is our data. That's what we are providing and allowing. So being aware of that and securing yourselves, you have to look at the terms and agreements for many of these sites. You might temporarily download it and then delete it from your phone because you recognize that you can't even remove the tracking feature or something that's on it. So I'll leave it there and then let Raul pick up with his contribution.
I mean, the biggest challenge is getting people to drop their guard when it comes to tech. A lot of people get really nervous and full of anxiety because they're intimidated by it. And so our approach is typically, not typically, it is to be very kind and gentle, no shaming of any of it, and to make the process fun and visceral. And again, to show them the end goal is to build yourself your own network that nobody else can control but you. And you have the governance power over this network to decide what gets done on it. And you can decide to go on the internet or just keep it local on your own little server. And that to them is an amazing, magical moment. And a lot of this stuff, as they learn it about the power, about the networking, about the wireless signals, about the server, a lot of them realize that they already know these things, but they just never put it all together in this context. I mean, again, a simple example is when you point your TV remote at the TV, that's a line of sight. You can actually, the TV can see the remote can see the TV, and that's how the wireless antennas work. And when you point your remote behind you at the opposite direction, the TV channel doesn't change. And that's a simple concept that people, oh yeah, that's a no-brainer. And so they're able to kind of piece together these things that they already know and understand how to build this little ecosystem in a suitcase that is actually a mirror of the internet, but a smaller version that they can control. So that's kind of how we kind of make ways into the fears and dispel the fears about technology.
I absolutely love that approach. I think that that TV example really, it clicks. I like it. And so Raul, you said a little bit about making this experience, about learning about the P&Ks and understanding technology. You wanted to make it fun. So can you share with us a little bit about how you make it fun, or a quirky or funny story or experience you've had when collaborating with people in the community on different tech projects?
Well, there's probably a million stories about funny things that have happened, but one of the best ones that we always, it's become lore at this point. We're on one, I'm not going to give out names or locations. We were building a network, and there was one person on the team that was quite, I'll just say mansplaining is, I guess, the word I can use.
Our tech bros.
And he sent an email to somebody else in the project saying they need to build 10 6-foot cables. But the notation he put in was 10 6-inch cables. And so she ended up building a bunch of cables this long, which have very little application because this is outdoor cable and it's not very pliable. So these are fairly useless, but I saved one of them because it was like a magical, hilarious moment where you realized, sometimes some things just don't go right. When you're full of yourself and like you think you know everything, sometimes you don't. And so that was like a typical moment that we've had. Well, we've had several ridiculous situations come up, but it's always fun. It's always fun.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's shamed. It's just always fun.
Of course. And that's so exciting. And I love the commitment to keeping the example I think it really drives it home. It's that
Reminder.
little, yeah, a great little reminder. I think that's so funny.
Not only just for us, but also when we're in an audience in a group and teaching people, for everyone to just sit back, relax, and recognize that you don't, just because you know it doesn't mean that you have to always share it. Just give people a chance to embrace it, because people have to learn and receive at their own pace. That's one of the essences of teaching community technology.
Absolutely. And then giving people the space to learn on their own, come to their own conclusions, make their own mistakes, I think is part of that process as well. And so I'm glad that you allow those things to happen and let people kind of fail forward a little bit, and that's okay.
Yes.
Changing gears a little bit about digital justice, Monique, you've been part of the Digital Justice Coalition in Detroit. So how does that idea translate to New York, and what are some of the digital justice wins that you all have already seen here?
Absolutely. I've been talking about it a little bit prematurely and earlier, so I won't 100% repeat those. But those principles, as I said, we take them to heart and treat them with care. I'm going to let Raul talk on that a bit in a few moments. But we love these principles because they have stood the test of time. Because when we're talking about access and people getting access to the internet, and it's something that we still have to pursue and have to push. But one of the places that stands out the most to me with the principles is about participation. We have been promoting for more Black people, more brown people, more women to be involved and included in tech, and that has come into fruition. When you talk about how it's transferred to my work in New York, it's still all about education and educating people, community people, in a way, meeting everybody wherever they are, not being afraid to encourage people to say, because people still stand back and be like, I'm not paying no bills, I'm not doing no banking, I'm not, but we can't get around it. We will have no choice in as we continue to approach, because to participate in society means we need adequate access online to adequately participate. We can't apply for any jobs, and soon we're not even going to be able to get any medical care or do anything that we need. We have to apply for everything by some means online. So the transformative work that I started doing in Detroit, I continue to do not only in New York City where I work, but also in Baltimore where I reside as well, part of the time, because there's always opportunity to work in underserved communities, and not only work in them, I live in them. So I'm able to work with the people who surround me and encourage everybody in a way on tech where we place it on wherever they are. We break it down. That's what community technology is: meeting people where they are, providing examples like Raul just did with the remote control, finding things people can relate to, but teaching them the complex concepts of technology through easy to understand terms and activities.
Absolutely, I agree. And I love the emphasis on the underserved population, or we like to say the historically, disincluded folks that exist within us and amongst us. I think it's really important. And Raul, we have the commonality of our background with teaching GED, and you with the addition of computer literacy to some of these folks in underserved communities. So how did that experience for you kind of shape your approach into designing community tech solutions?
Well, again, like I briefly mentioned, just the frustration between not having this thing all kind of collided together or molded together into one kind of practice. And so I found that if you design curriculum that's hands-on, fun, and project-based, and nobody's forced to do anything. There's no tests, there's no quizzes, there's no you got to memorize all this stuff by tomorrow, because in tech there's a million acronyms, and so don't worry, you can always look it up. Let's just build this thing together. And so with the hands-on approach, you're able to slowly scaffold up these ideas and concepts, and with the result at the end, knowing you're going to build yourself a network. So as you go through it, people are configuring the router, for example. That's when you can kind of mention and talk about the various protocols that are all agreed upon that are running inside the device. And then when you get into building the cables, you talk about the protocols behind the cabling and what's happening with the power. And so you kind of just slowly spoon feed everybody pieces of information, and a lot of folks know information back. And so you learn from each other. It's an exchange. And because what it isn't is a 2-hour lecture of blah, 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 blah. And people kind of just glaze out. And so the original digital steward curriculum was more text-based, and I found it didn't really go over very well in New York City. So I adapted it to be a P&K based curriculum where people build it first, and then we worry about all the protocols that just got implemented. Then we worry about how does this antenna actually really do work, and then you go out and test it. But if it's all conceptual on the board, on a smart board, nothing really, it sticks to some people, but not everybody. So it's making it really engaging and visceral.
I love that. And meeting people where they are with their learning needs is so important, and having the opportunity for them to be a little bit more tactile and build with their hands and ask questions and have that share of thought and idea, I think is so important. And Monique, I know you've worked with Detroit's Open Data Portal Commission. And so if they're working to help data empower communities, how do you envision that happening in Detroit? How do you see it maybe moving to New York and other places amongst the country, that empowerment? How do you see data playing its role?
Absolutely. I'm going to answer that question on the data, so I won't forget it, but I want to jump back a step for a minute about communicating with residents and educating community residents about not only meeting people where they are, but we're inviting people in to participate who are on the ground in the communities. When I was recruiting digital stewards and people to participate in our building this big, large community network in the North End, greater North End of Detroit, I went to the local park. I went to the basketball court. I went to community meetings because I wanted people who lived in the community to work with us on this project, because they already have the vested interest of living there in that community, but they will then have an increased vested interest once we bring internet, especially when we're able to bring it at extremely low cost or free to that community. It will continue. It will have sustainability because there'll be vested residents who are in it. Not only that, from working with vested residents, we get trust. And I live, of course, in Detroit, but I didn't live in the North End. I lived on the farther east side. And but having various key leaders and community leaders, and I'm not talking about political leaders, but we all have community leaders, the neighbor who's always sweeping the block or the street or the curb and walkway and chatting, sitting on the porch and chatting and talking to everybody. We have a saying in Detroit, because we have a situation with green light surveillance, and of course it's inundated in our communities. And we talk about green chairs instead of green lights, meaning people sitting on the porch and watching everything happen in the neighborhood works far better than you trying to put cameras on us, which are capturing our images without consent and placing them in, availability for police lineups. But anyway, another subject, I won't get on that, but a little bit to it. It relates then though to people having a voice. When you mention that, we talk about using this voice for advocacy, and advocacy not only for various policies that affect you, but even at your local levels, so that we all, and this online access helps us with this, because when something is going to be voted on by our local city councils or something like that, we can completely follow what's going on online and literally put in our comments, our public comments, as to whether we want to support that initiative or whether we don't. Sorry, that wasn't the 100% question, but and if we need to move on, I'm okay with that. But I just wanted to make sure to clarify that piece, because I think that's one of the spaces where we exist that is extremely relevant. But you asked about the open data portal. I'll make that one quick and easy. what the Open Data Portal does, and I am a commissioner for it in Detroit. New York already has one. I'll actually say that New York's Open Data Portal is really one to look at and admire because they provide a considerable amount of data. Now, to talk about Open Data Portal really quickly, everyone, it's where the data sets live for the various cities, the data sets as to what's going on, meaning if people are applying for licenses, it's there on the open data portals. If there are permits being given for new work to occur, when you follow that, sometimes you already see where are they targeting in our neighborhoods building up. Because you can see what permits and all are being distributed or issued. But there are also things on the open data portals like crime information and statistics. Those are sometimes things we need to respond to say this information is not true, or we can reiterate, yeah, it is, because all of those things relate to our insurance rates and all that happen. But both in New York and in Detroit, the open data portals are expanding, meaning they are providing more information for the public, more huge data sets where we can literally see what influence and information is being used to make decisions for actions in our cities. So please check them out. No matter where you are, you probably have one if you are not calling, if you're neither in New York or in Detroit, New York City or in Detroit, but search on your state.gov website and then just put in the search open data portal. I think you'll be very surprised to see the amount of public data that is now been made accessible to us.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing a little bit of that insight. And I hope the audience feels encouraged to understand and hear a little bit more about the open data portal and how it might impact them. I think being well informed about what happens in your community is really important. And I love what you said earlier about being kind of bringing the change makers to the table, having community
Yes.
buy-in, and really recognizing the power and the influence that people who just have been pillars of the community have. I think very often they don't get the recognition that they deserve unless you're in the capacity building space and things like that. And so I'm glad that you were able to give them the credit that they very rightly and justly deserve. So
Absolutely. We help people discover the genius that they never knew that they actually had, because they excel so well when they start to work on tech and they're like, I'm good at this. And, and to do what we do, you don't have to go to school for it. You can learn it on your own and with our assistance.
And I think that's one of those myths that I think is being dispelled now, that technology is only for people who go to a traditional four-year institution and go on to get graduate degrees and PhDs. And I think there was some intention behind making technology feel very difficult and not for us, right? And so I think bringing technology to the community really makes it a much more inclusive and accessible resource for people. And so can both of you share a little bit about maybe a common myth that you hear about community technology? Let's set the record straight for our audience today.
Well, people tend, again, there's technology, then there's community technology. And the reason we define it that way is there something for everybody in the process? And really, it's not too complex for somebody who's untrained or uncertified. You can learn this stuff. The hardest thing to learn actually is the community organizing, because that requires you to have a personality and to go out to talk to people and to knock on doors and be brave about it, to have that confidence to go out. That's what's hard to build. The tech skills, you can learn it by practicing over and over again. So that's kind of typically how we want to dispel those myths. And like, for example, when you build a community network, there's a position for someone to be the computer nerd that's configuring stuff and coding things. There's the people that can do the installations and build the cables. So that's like really hands-on stuff. There's the people that need to actually code and build the server for the network. But then there's also the folks that need to kind of document the process, and people that need to keep the records for the passwords and all the usernames on the network. People that take photographs of the process and of the actual work for documentation and for fundraising. And then there's, of course, the organizing aspect of it. So there's something for everybody in this process. So that's why we call it community tech, because it isn't just about the tech. The tech is just the part that gets you kind of excited about being nerdy about it. But the whole ecosystem is really active and inviting for everybody who wants to be involved in the process. And to shrink it all down into a P and K, all those roles are there in the P and K, and then they just expands out into the community after you build one.
Absolutely. Educating at the community level where we are inclusive of the community, because like you said, you're correct. There are, there have been intentions when you look at algorithms and the way that they formerly existed, and the way that they're being improved. And even when you look at something as basic and simplistic as when we were first introduced to social media and chat features and emojis, and none of them, you had no skin tone options. It was like, okay, these are not the only people using the internet. So we've expanded now, and we continue, we will, but you know how that happened? Through our voice, through us saying like, well, wait a minute, I don't want a white skin tone up every time I, display. And now we have this variation of shades that we can do. And these come from us, by us presenting our voices. We had a little saying once ago that, nothing for us without us. We have to be included in these opportunities, because, if you're not at the table, then you're on the menu. So we got to be at the table. And that's what we look to work to continue to try to do. When you're about those are some of the myths that we've been dispelling for quite some time. And I think the key to that is continuing to work with residents. We make up this wonderful digital ecosphere because we are a myriad of people: musicians, artists, poets, urban farmers. We work with all of these teachers, professional educators, local and non-professional educators, people who do daycare work, all of these various areas that we come from, athletes. It allows us to bring our perspectives. So when we're talking about technology and solutions and working with providing internet access in communities, which is a key function and goal of ours, and also informing about emergency preparedness. It's another aspect of what we do with the Portable Network Kit. We need all of the voices. We need the myriad of people so we can make sure to reflect an ecosphere. That's a system of connectivity of everyone.
Absolutely. And I think a system of connectivity is such a beautiful way to describe and place it. And technology has evolved a lot over the past few years. You talked about this technology kind of coming out and coming together before the pandemic, where we really saw an increased use and kind of a shift in people's needs and expectations. And so looking into the future now, what are some of the things that, let's say 5 years from now, what's the impact that you would like CTNY to have in the neighborhoods, not only in New York, but across the city and country? What are you looking forward to?
Well, I would like this next year, but in 5 years is fine. Community-owned resilient wireless networks and community tech labs to teach and engage the community. Because once you build a network, you need a workforce to keep the network up and running and engage and get the word out about it. So you need to have like a community tech lab in an anchor organization, nonprofit in the area that's already trusted by the community. And people can go there and learn the skills to maintain the network. And because, yeah, so that would be my ideal, is to have a network like this everywhere.
Absolutely. And in addition to having that network earlier, and I alluded to talking about the Portable Network Kit's potential for to be used in emergency preparedness. So I'd like to see active emergency preparedness plans, because we've already experienced many things. We're currently experiencing fires again, and there's always going to be flood, fire, tornado. In our communities, it doesn't matter where we're located, we will be caught up in some kind of emergency. So we need to know how to network amongst our communities to be able to help ourselves, because it's difficult, as we see in every situation, before the outsiders can come in and help us, especially when it's devastating incidents. And these devastating incidents can occur in urban environments as well. So I'd like to see active emergency preparedness plans using the portable network kit additionally as the community emergency network. Because it doesn't have to be reliant upon internet, which has often gone out in emergencies. It's the interconnectivity of being able to join the portable network kit network, and it also has the opportunity to operate by solar energy, so it can continue to operate without electricity as well. That's what I'd like to see. And that's ideal for me to see.
Absolutely. And I really appreciate the intention behind the sustainability of the PNKs. Especially, I think when we had met, it was right after, for those who don't know, the Vanguard Consulting Group team is based out of Atlanta, Georgia. And so we met right after the Southeast had experienced some really devastating floods. Several states were impacted, and unfortunately, a lot of people lost the infrastructure and lives and the security of their home and life as they knew it. And I couldn't help but think, when you all were presenting during the lightning talks, about how important and how pivotal it could have been for these people to have had access to things like this. And when you think about the instance of different natural disasters that are coming. And we know that the areas that are most heavily impacted are also the areas that lack the infrastructure, some of these underserved populations that we've talked about before. And so I think having a mission that really works on, building infrastructure in the community, involving them in every step of the process, and then encouraging and employing them to take ownership of the maintenance and the sustainability of it, really from a kind of a high level, really transforms an entire community. When there are these instances of natural disasters that we know are human action caused, but maybe not, the fault fully of the people who are impacted most heavily by it, I think having some technology there would be a beautiful way to support and sustain communities. So I'm very excited, and you all have inspired a huge amount of change and digital justice, and showing that can be in every community. And so I would love to hear from your perspective, what does an ideal future look like, kind of using community technology?
Well, this kind of goes back to what I said before, but I would like to add free municipal fiber that is accessible for each community anchor organization to choose on how to use it, and let the community lead in building the last mile out. Because there's all this fiber in most cities that's not being used. And so just give us a strand, distribute it out. Let us use it, and let us figure out how to build out the last mile, what to do with it. And don't regulate it, and it should be free. I don't want it to be low cost. I want it to be free. The backhaul, the high-speed connection fiber. That would be ideal. That's my idea of changing the game, is that.
Yeah, it's a key component, because to allow us, whether it's the fiber that's owned by cities and towns, and some of them don't, there are literally some restrictions from them even being able to use the
Yes.
fiber that they own, which of course transmit the internet out to the public, and being able to give it away to the community, or allow the community to use it. Internet service providers, in the same regard, I have a term that I refer to as digital philanthropy. That's where internet service providers literally donate internet, a bandwidth of internet, and allow us freely to share that internet. Because when we've helped to build community networks, all it is sharing out internet. We put up antennas all over the area that can either project internet or receive internet, so that community members, and I'm not talking about public Wi-Fi hotspots, but that community members can literally receive it within their residence, and not have to try and pay high bills for a necessity, for something that you absolutely need. The communities that we're talking about serving, unserved and underserved, the internet service providers aren't fighting to try and serve those communities. Unfortunately, they are providing the bare minimums in our communities, many of them, the bare minimums in our communities for internet access, where they may be increasing the speed or the bandwidth or opportunity that we have. It still comes last to the unserved and underserved areas, because the income is not there for them to be able to charge $70 a month or 120 or 150, for high speed gigabit internet. And but we're fine if you can give us some basic 100 megabit upload. And I told you download, and I told you we want equal upload because we want to put our content up fast. Give us some 100 megabit, that's fine. That allows us to operate and function and use internet. So ideally for me, same line along Raul, not only open a municipal fiber that we can share so we can continue to build community networks, and especially for emergency preparedness planning, and also for internet service providers to become digital philanthropists, donate internet in those areas where you're not really able to get those high incomes that you want, and allow the community to be able to access it in those regards. And again, for us to share it amongst network building, we can continue to teach more people about how to build your own internet. I once referred to it as a term of like teaching people how to fish, in this case, so that they'll forever always be able to eat. In this case, teach people how to build their own internet, including Ethernet cable, so we'll forever be able to stay connected and help to connect others.
I love that, the CTNY parable. I think that's incredible. So we are coming to the end of our time together, and I know I can speak for myself and for the audience that this has been so incredible to hear about what you all are doing. I'm gonna put a little nod to anyone who wants to ask a question in the chat. If there's something that's on your mind or a burning question, go ahead and put it in there before we finish our final question. But so for everything you've told us today, I want our listeners who maybe were interested in making a difference in their community through tech, what's the best piece of advice that you could give them to get started on this journey, and where would CTNY fit into their journey?
I'll say the best piece of advice is to remain open in seeking knowledge, because nobody knows everything, and we're always constantly learning, even with what we offer at CTNY. But how we come into the picture of being able to help is by continuing to offer community technology-based education in how to create and build networks. I know that you can actually share the screen right now as we talk, because this is our contact information, and I'll let Raul share, give his last words. So feel free, you can of course pick up the QR code, and there's some contact info there. But Raul, you want to give your opinion on?
Yes, I would say be patient. This is not a quick solution. You don't just come in, drop off the tech and run. You must be engaged in the process. It takes a lot of time. When you build a portable network kit, again, it's a functional high-powered network, but it's a seed network, and it takes years for it to actually become a community-wide network. So you have to have the patience to actually follow through and make the connections with rooftop owners, small businesses, and again, municipal fiber. And so once you make the effort to actually go out and engage the community, again, that's when the things actually happen. A lot of programs just give away free laptops, free hotspots, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a community-owned wireless network that's been built by them and run by them and governed by them. So it's not a quick solution. So you have to be patient.
Absolutely. And we thank you too for inviting us and the time here. And just wanted to share these photos because you heard me talk about earlier, one of our goals with participation is encouraging and inviting more Black people, brown people, and women to participate in the tech field. And you can see that our pictures speak for us. They reflect these are current and recent trainings that we've had where these groups, you're looking at the top right, a group of women from Atlanta, that's End State ATL, who built their portable network kits and took them home. In the lower bottom right, you're looking at our group from Puerto Rico who came in and built their kits. That's two different groups. And then to the picture on the left, you're looking at the ladies from Detroit who came in from a couple of different organizations, urban farming and some other backgrounds, and built their portable network kits. So you can see that we are putting our work where our mouth is, and that's who's participating with us. So thank you again for the opportunity and time.
Of course, it's been an absolute pleasure. We've really enjoyed having you. And I think our kind of relationship with the BDPA team has always been very collaborative, and we love being able to introduce our network to the incredible work that they do and vice versa. So we're excited that you all had the time to share with us, and I hope the audience enjoyed it as much as we did. So I'll hand it back over to Devin.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amara. Thank you, Monique and Raul, for sharing with us today. Powerful work that you're doing, and excited to see where it continues to go from here. So thank you for doing what you're doing to make sure we're empowering our communities with the resources they need to stay relevant and connected in this technologically advancing world. So thank you. Thank you to Amara and Akil with Vanguard Consulting Group, LLC, for continuing to be a consistent partner with us in bringing relevant content, resources, and connections to our BDPA audience. This is very relevant and needed. So thank you, and looking forward to continuing this work in 2025. But to everyone else, enjoy your Thanksgiving holidays. We'll be back in December to wrap things up with our national president, Perry Carter, to recap the year and set the stage for our 50th anniversary coming up next year. So looking forward to having you all with us. Again, if you're on YouTube, like, share, subscribe, comment below, click that bell so you know when we post, and share this with somebody who needs to hear this information. Share this with an organization who should be investing in this work or who could leverage this work to help others. So share this, watch it, share with others. And that's National BDPA on YouTube for those in the call right now. Be on our YouTube channel. It'll also be on our website, bdpa.org/tech in Career Talks. Thank you. Until next time, stay safe, stay blessed.
Thank you.